Sergio. Hi, Sergio. How are you feeling?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, thank you. How does it feel to be on the continent in Lagos, Nigeria at GTCO Fashion Weekend?
It's kind of surreal. My business partner called me. I was still in New York, and she was like, I've never been in first class with so many black people. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And when I touched down in the airport, you know, I always feel like I am the minority. And when I got to the airport here, I was like, wow, it feels like home. I feel so normal, like nobody's paying attention to me.
Wonderful. Well, welcome home. We're very happy to have you. So your topic today is unveiling the path to fulfilling dreams, your journey of focus and determination. I particularly loved this topic because usually dreams can feel quite lofty, but then talking about focus and determination seems very intentional. Can you tell us what that means to you?
Well, I think, you know, the crazy part is I believe that I just was so laser focused. I decided that I was going to be a designer at 4 years old.
4 years old.
4 years old, I was watching this show that used to come on, CNN Style by Elsa Clinch. I was a very small child, but for some reason it just resonated with me. And I saw Gianni Versace, and I realized, oh, you can dress women for a living, and I just attached to it, and I never got off of that train. So I think because I started so early, and I was such a, you know, I was so young, I didn't realize that, oh, that's really lofty dreams to be that and to do that. So I just got on this trajectory and I kept going. Not until later on in life did I realize, oh, this is kind of hard. But you know, I was already on the train, so it's like you can't get off because you went through high school, you're in college, and you're like, I don't have any backup plans, so I just had to make it happen.
I love that. And what role did your mom being a tailor and your sister being a runway model play in you knowing that you were going to design?
Well, I think with my mom, she was probably the catalyst for me having, well, not probably, she was the catalyst for me having an interest in fashion. There was always Vogue magazine, there was always Essence, there was always Jet, there was always, you know, Harper's Bazaar, all these different type of fashion magazines and cultural magazines around the house that spoke to fashion because that's what she was obsessed with. Like to this day, like I have a museum exhibit opening in my hometown, I think like next week, and she's calling me like, what am I wearing? What is this? I need to wear these shoes, because she's always, you know, that's how she expresses herself. And it was such an inspiration on me to see my mom's journey in life as a woman and how she expressed that through her clothing. So it kind of made me, you know, I know every designer says they're inspired by their mother, but my mom is really stylish, like extremely to the point when we were in our little small town, people would just stare at her wherever we went because it was like, are you looking at somebody that's not from here, or are you looking at somebody that's like on television? Because she just really was a stylish person in this little small town in South Carolina. So I think living with a woman like that, you have no choice but to either love fashion or hate it.
Well, we thank God that you love it.
Yeah.
So in terms of your journey, you know, a lot of people, like even when I introduced you, I talked about winning the reality show and all of the iconic people that you've dressed. So that's what we see, but we don't see the hard work. We don't see the challenges. Can you talk a little bit about that and your journey to where you are now?
Well, I think the journey to get, let's just start here. Like when you're a designer and I don't think people really think about this sometimes. The fashion business is structured around designers. If you didn't have designers, you wouldn't have a fashion magazine. You wouldn't have a need for a stylist. You wouldn't have a need for anything. So the designer is the business of fashion. And to be a part of that is one of the hardest jobs to have in fashion and one of the hardest entryways to get into fashion. So, of course, I didn't have the capital to, just start a fashion business. So I started, after I did Style to Rock, I kind of started at zero and started dressing celebrities. And when we started dressing the celebrities, it gave us the notoriety. And, we just kept going and going and going. And I joined with my business partner. We started the collection. And then I just kept going and going. Sometimes it was hard. Like, you don't eat a meal. You buy a yard of fabric. You don't, go this place because you have to do this. Or you have to do that. It's been a life of sacrifice to get to where I am and where the business is now. And I don't think it's a daily sacrifice. Even when you get to the place where you are making money and you are able to, do things that you weren't able to do, then it's like, okay, now it's a new type of sacrifice. And I think that's something that people have to know about this sector of the fashion business. It's a constant sacrifice. It's never ending, and it's always a job, a journey, and a struggle. But if you love it, it's rewarding at the end of the day. And I think I always say you have to have love for this business in order to work in it. If you don't, if you lose that love, if you lose that admiration for fashion and for seeing a great stylish woman in clothing, or a great woman looking beautiful with hair, makeup, if you lose the love and joy for that, then you're done. Because it's the only thing that keeps you sometimes. Like sometimes I'm so burnt out and I scroll Instagram and I'll see a beautiful ad campaign, or I'll see a video from the 90s of a runway show, which is like my entry point into fashion, and my love language is 90s fashion. And, it'll just rejuvenate me and say, okay, I'm going to take tonight off, and in the morning I'm going to get up and we're going to try this again. But that love that I have is never ending. That's how I feel.
Wow, that was beautiful. And you spoke about burnout and being rejuvenated by certain things. I read that you found inspiration from a Diane Carroll photograph.
Oh yes, it's this Diane Carroll photograph that's like, I don't know, if you guys have your phones now, you can Google Diane Carroll in a white sweater on a sofa and you'll find it. But it's just the most casual picture. She was just sitting there in a white sweater, in a pair of white trousers, in a pair of slingback with no blonde shoes, all white, everything. And it was just a casual day, but she looked so beautiful and so casual. And I think it inspired me because she was just a woman. It wasn't that she was black or that she was white or anything. She was just a very stylish woman. And that's how I see fashion. That's how I see women. And, I strive to make women feel like how she looks in that picture. So I keep that picture like in my phone, and I look at it often because it's very simple, but it's so inspiring at the same time.
That's great, and I think a lot of people as designers and creatives experience burnout and sometimes don't know where to find inspiration. So to find inspiration from something as simple as a photograph and even design collections, that's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. I think, so here's the thing with burnout. Today you can be burned out and tomorrow you get up and like, okay, I can do this again. So I think when you feel that feeling, you just have to take a break mentally. It's hard to do when you're actually running a business because, I'm not one of those designers that just, sketch all day and, come up with ideas. To be honest, and as of late, the past couple of years, it's been business first and creative second. And, that's just out of necessity because we're trying to build something that can change the way the fashion industry looks for us. And I think I was talking to all the other guys that are here to speak and show at the dinner the other night, and I was saying, my journey is not just for me. So I have a higher calling than just being a successful designer, being famous, being rich, everybody knowing my name and who I am. My purpose I have chosen to take on is to change the face of fashion so people can normalize people that look like me and that look like everybody in this room in this industry. When you think about it, you go to the mall and somebody tells you, let's go and buy something, a legacy brand. The first brands that come to your mind are not brands that are owned and operated by black people. It's just a fact of the matter, and we know that's because of generational wealth. We know that's because they don't want us there. But I feel like it's been so many people that have come along that just couldn't make it to the end of the finish line for whatever reason. And I feel like if I can make it there, then the next generation can make it there even further than me, and they can keep building, and it'll be easier and easier, and you'll see a Sergio Hudson alongside a Gucci. You'll see a Sergio Hudson alongside a Louis Vuitton. You'll see my store on Rodeo Drive on Madison Avenue, and it'll be normal. It won't be like, wow, look at that black man that has that brand. It'll just be like, look at that brand. And that's what I think every day, that's what gets me up and keeps me going, even when I'm like mad and angry and, I'm venting about how the industry doesn't allow you to do this or do that, or I don't have money to do this or do that. I think that's what keeps me motivated, is that end goal to normalize my people in this industry.
That's remarkable. I think that deserves a round of applause. Okay, take us through your journey with Style to Rock and how that came about, and it being produced by Rihanna and you winning. What was that like?
So, if you know anything about these shows, they cast, and I had been cast for other shows like Project Runway and a few other shows, and I never went through with the casting because, you have friends that actually work in the industry, and they tell you, don't do one of those shows. It won't be good for you in the end. And at that moment, I had turned down so many shows, and the casting director actually found me on this website from way back in the day called Model Mayhem, and I had a page with my designs on them, and they found me, and they asked me to come to LA to cast for the show. I was at a very low point. I didn't know which direction I was going in. I just knew it's something new and I needed a change. So I actually agreed to go out for casting, believing that this was the move for me. Went out there for casting. They put you up in a hotel for 2 weeks. You can't talk to anybody. You can't see anybody. And they just cast you every day. You come in, you do something, whatever. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they didn't cast me. They sent me home. I was devastated. So I was upset. I got in the car, me and my best friend, Charles. We got in the car, we went to Atlanta, and I think we were out to dinner with his sister, and they called me, and they were like, we need you to come back. Somebody didn't work out, and we want you to come back to LA for the show. So I came back on episode 3. I was an alternate. Wow. And, from the time, I think this is where destiny aligns with purpose and skill level, because I was, I was working, I was sewing every day. I was making clothes every day. I was in it, I had to survive. I was making clothes for whoever needed them. So I could sew, I could design, and I had the same taste level that I have right now. So when I went onto the show, I was in tip-top shape. I felt like Michael Jordan in Game 6. I was ready, like I wasn't gonna fail. And I went in, I started winning the episodes. I won the first 3 episodes. And And, to be honest, it really wasn't that hard. I won the whole show. And at the end, thank you. I won the whole show. And, this is where I like to say, you think this is the moment, but it's not really the moment. At the end of the show, I'm expecting, I'm this little Southern boy from South Carolina. I didn't really know how things work. I thought I knew how things worked in the entertainment industry, but I was promised, okay, you're going to be on Rihanna's design team. And now that I think about that and I look back, what is Rihanna's design team? But at that time, I was like, okay, she's really famous. She has a design team that designs her clothes. Now, and I don't know, now that I work in the industry, I know I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. And so at the end, I was promised this opportunity, and I'm like, okay, I'm moving to LA. I got to figure this out. I got to figure that out. So I go home, 1 month, no call. 2 months, no call. 3 months, no call. Finally get a call to dress her. She went on a tour with Eminem called the Monster Tour. They sent all the creative. They asked me to make stuff. The stuff had nothing to do with how I design. But I was like, look, this is my opportunity. I'm going to do it. We made all the stuff. I get the call back. They say, the stuff is made terrible. It doesn't look good. It's not right. Blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff. And at the end of the day, when the tour came out, I was devastated, of course, because I didn't want to argue with these people. I knew what I had made, and it was made beautifully. Anybody that knows me, when I used to make my own clothes, they were made beautifully. It was no question. And I knew it was something up. So when the tour came out, it was a completely different direction than what they gave me. So what happened is they changed the whole direction of the tour, and they told me it didn't work. And I never got a call again. And, at that moment, I could have chosen to be angry, devastated, whatever, but I chose to say, okay, this isn't my path. Let's take what we got from this path and keep it moving. So everybody assumes that after that show, it was like, boom, I blew up, but it wasn't. I started all the way back over at zero. Nobody knew who I was because nobody watched the show. I think our highest ratings was like the premiere episode was like 400,000 viewers. And because they buried us on a Friday night on Bravo. And it just wasn't like that moment. But I'm thankful for that because when I tell people about it, they're like, oh, wow, you were on one of those shows. And nobody really knows. So it kind of worked out for me in the good in the end. But I'm saying all that to say, every moment leads you to the next moment, and you can't let the moment that you thought was going to be the moment, when it doesn't happen, you can't let it throw you off track. And that's what I think. You know what I mean? You have opportunities, like you get your big job interview for the job of your dreams that you've been working towards your whole life, and you just know you're going to get it, and then you don't get it. What do you do in that moment? Do you run away and retreat and hide, or do you say, okay, I have to try something else? And I think, I just started all over, and God did what he was going to do, because it was definitely not me, for sure.
Amazing. I think all of us are definitely resonating with that, and I think it's really important to have that message, because we always think we've arrived at some point, and life will tell you that you have not. And it is a journey. I guess the next question would be back to something you've already spoken about, but I would love, because I know we have designers in the audience who would want to know. You said something about putting business first and then creativity second. What does that actually look like in a practical sense?
I think for me, and this is just me, my bigger goal is to have that legacy brand. So what does that mean? That means you have to sell clothing. It means you have to have products that people want to buy. And that's more than being creative. That's figuring out your marketing, figuring out, okay, what do the customers like? What can we do to make sure they know that we have this available? what strategies can we use to make our Fashion Week show look better? You know, all of these are business things that me and my business partner talk about on a daily basis. And, you know, my design team that I work with, you know, a lot of times I have to neglect them because it's like, okay, we got to figure out this business, because if I don't figure out this business part, you're not going to get paid, and I can't take care of my family. So I think you have to put the business first, but it is a creative business. So you have to balance that as well. But if you put the business first, the business calls for the creative to fund the business. So you have to put the business first, and the creative will come in after that, because you got to have the creative for the business to sell and go and do what it needs to do. So when I say put your business first, it means think about your fabrications, think about your price point, think about your customer. Don't just go out there designing stuff that you want to design. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because it's like, I'm in the mood to make really sexy dresses, and that's all I want to show on the runway, but my customer loves my suits. So I have to put suits in the show. I have to figure out a way to make this creative match this business. And that's what I mean about putting business first.
Thank you. You're just dropping gems. I feel like every time you stop speaking, there's a round of applause. In terms of intentionality, I think I read that you wanted to dress Michelle Obama.
Yes.
And something about an Instagram.
Okay, so here's the story. Now I've told this story a lot of times, and every time I add more detail to it, because you know, you don't want to tell everything. But so years ago, I don't know, maybe it was like right before the pandemic or right, I don't know. I noticed Meredith Coupe. That's Michelle Obama's stylist. Like, she dresses her. I noticed she was following me on Instagram. You know, you get the little notification when somebody's following you. As soon as I saw that notification, I messaged her. I said, "Hi, I love your work. I would love to dress Michelle Obama. How can we do that?" And she said, yes. And those words, like, I never forget, because she just said yes. And it was the best yes I ever got, because from that moment, we just started working together. And I don't know, I guess it was, you know, like I said, it was destiny, it was God, because this woman she can get clothes from anybody in the entire world. I believe somebody who doesn't make clothes would make clothes for Michelle Obama.
I would make clothes for Michelle.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be like, I'm not a designer, but I'll figure it out. And so the first thing we did was we did a bunch of clothes. She had an Elle magazine cover shoot, and we did a bunch of clothes for that. We sent those clothes, none of them fit, because they gave us old measurements. And Meredith was like, okay, that didn't work. We'll do something for the book tour. Okay, so a few months later, we started working on stuff for her becoming book tour. First time we dressed her in a like an eggplant color suit. It was for her, I'll never forget, her Atlanta stop on her tour. It was the second to last stop on the tour. I know everything. And then after that, we dressed her for Essence Fest. And it was like this sequin jumpsuit that was kind of 70s inspired. That's where I was at the moment. And me and Meredith always work with, she loves to pick stuff from the runway and then customize it for Mrs. Obama. So we did that. And then the final moment, or the last moment, was, well, not the last moment, because I've dressed her a couple times since then, but the big moment was inauguration. And I love to set up this story because I wasn't, you know, really, I've dressed Mrs. Obama a few times now. You know, I'm feeling, you know, I'm something because I've dressed her. You know, that's a notch off my belt. Like, I've dressed her. It's cool. You know, so she called. She was like, would you like to dress Mrs. Obama for inauguration? And I was like, okay, cool. You know, yeah, like, nothing to it. You know, I got the measurements. Let's go. And so we sketched for that. And, you know, we did it, we made it, it was done. Meanwhile, at the same time, my focus was on the vice president because throughout the campaign, I had been dressing her, but, you know, we kind of volunteered to do it because, you know, my business partner is from Los Angeles and California. We're California-based, so, you know, we were very proud of her. She's from California, you know, so, and then they had promised us, okay, if you do this for us for this tour of, you know, trying to get in the White House, we'll give you inauguration. So, came down to it, and it was time to make stuff for inauguration, and I got the call. We actually sketched for inauguration, I believe. Then I get the call, and they're like, you can't dress her for inauguration. Didn't know why. Got word that somebody else was going to dress her for the morning of inauguration. Devastated, like devastated, upset. My heart sunk. I was over it, mad, like this is some BS, blah, 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 you know, all of that stuff. And my business partner said to me at that moment, she said, it's something else for us. And anybody that knows my business partner knows she's the one to be like, I'm gonna make a phone call, this ain't right, we did this, we did that. Like, she's business. Like, you told us this, we should have this. And she just at that moment said to me with such peace, it's something else for us. And it calmed me down, and I was like, okay, you know, cool. And fast forward a little bit to the night before inauguration, because I did end up dressing the vice president for the evening of inauguration. So I was in D.C. fitting her in her coat, and I get the call from Meredith the night before, and she's like, question, are you dressing the vice president for inauguration for the morning? And I told her, no, I was, but I'm not. She said, okay, good, because if you were, I was gonna put Michelle Obama in something else. So had I got that opportunity to dress the vice president, the moment that we got from that inauguration would have never happened for us. And I think, you know, that's such a great lesson, again, to know that God, the universe, whatever you believe, has what he has for you is for you. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can, you know, you can't manufacture your own opportunity. And I think that's something that we can set ourselves up for opportunity and make sure we're conditioned for it, but you can't change how things are supposed to be because his plan is the perfect plan. My plan wouldn't have worked out as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that morning of inauguration, nobody was talking about what the vice president wore. Nobody.
Right, nobody.
Everybody was talking about what Michelle Obama wore. And that was not intentional. That was not us. And to me personally, the outfit was great, but I don't believe it was just the outfit. I believe it was ordained that was the moment for the world to know who we were. And it was time for our brand to be known. And it was no way of getting around that. So from that moment on, I've always said, you know, what's for us is for us. We're going to work hard. We're going to make sure we're excellent in everything that we do, and we're going to be set up for the moments that we deserve.
Yes. So for the people in the audience, the designers, we're going to open it up to questions. I'm sure everybody wants to ask questions. But for the designers in the audience that have been trying, that have been sacrificing, you know, the economy is tough everywhere in the world, but particularly here. How do they stay focused and stay determined despite the obstacles that seem never ending?
I always say to, you know, because when you're a designer at this level and you work with a lot of people, you work with manufacturers, you work with sewers, you work with pattern makers, and I always tell my pattern makers, and it might be in a bit of an egotistical, cocky way, I always tell them, as long as I got these, Sergio's gonna make clothes. So whether you quit or not, whether I can afford to pay you or not, this collection is not going to stop. And I think what you have to know is no matter what the economy does, no matter what people say, no matter what money you can get or don't get, as long as you have talent, there's always opportunity for you to start over. There's always opportunity for you to begin again, and you can always work your way back to where you were when you fell off the bus. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I don't want to start all over, but if I have to go back to the extra bedroom in my mom's house in South Carolina, I will, because it's not going to stop me. So you have to make sure that what you have in you, your talent, is solid. If you have solid talent and you know you have skills, you have talent, you have breath in your body, you can always pick up and start over, no problem.
Amazing.
Hi, Hudson. Good to have you. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. My question is, you keep talking about your partner. At what point did you get this partner? And what part did he play in the business? Thank you.
At what point did you get a business partner, and what role does he play in the business?
Okay, so maybe about, we're in our 8th year. So I met my business partner through a client of mine that's her family member. And I have a female business partner. I don't have a male business partner. Well, her husband is my business partner too, but she's the one I work with every day. So we got together, I think it was in January of 2016, and it was at a moment where, I had already been dressed as celebrities. I had started building the name of the brand already. Like, I had won the show, I had started the collection, and I was dressing people, but I wasn't really in business. Like, I wasn't wholesaling. I was putting out collections, but they were more press collections. So, like, just opportunities for people to wear the clothes. And I was still heavily working my custom straight to, like a customer, like I make you stuff made to measure business by hand. So she kind of came in and she gave the seed money for us to start a collection and to start selling to stores. That was about 8 years ago. I would say to you, you need a business partner when you start having business. And when I say you start having business, it's like when you start selling things and when you start capping out where you are, like you can't handle it anymore, you need money because you need to grow, that's when you know, okay, I need someone to help me handle this business part. But I would say the difference between a business partner and an investor is very important, because your business partner, you have the creative, you have the plan, you have the vision for what the collection is, but the business partner comes in and says, okay, I have a little money, I'm gonna bring some money to the table, and I'm gonna partner with you, and I'm gonna help you do the business part of this. I'm gonna negotiate for you. I'm gonna be, it's almost like a marriage. When people come to me, I send them to her. They're like, how much you gonna charge for this? How much you gonna do for that? I'm like, okay, you gotta talk to her. And it keeps you balanced, and it keeps you from, sometimes people will take advantage when it's just you. So when you get in a point where it's like, okay, I need someone else here to kind of buffer this part, because the business part can get very heavy and hectic. And once you have to be able to share, I think a lot of times designers don't want to share their business. And you can't grow if you don't share. And that's the point. When I was looking for a business partner, I was looking for a partner that could help me navigate, okay, this is the deals we need to do. This is where we need to go. I wasn't looking for somebody to throw money at me, because throwing money at something that's not planned out well or that's not even established is not good. So you have to know when to take money and when to ask for a business partner.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Hope that answered your question.
Next question.
Good evening, Sergio. I'm a big fan. My question is about legacy designing. I don't think we want for talent, but especially in Nigeria here, my question is, how do you build your brand outside of yourself? Because most times people can only relate your brand with a face. Like, okay, this is this person, this is this person. How do you build your brand, that is your fashion brand? And people be like, oh, that is Sergio Hudson, outside of yourself.
I think there's a few things. You have to know what your DNA is for your brand. Like, what woman are you trying to dress? Like, for Sergio Hudson, it's a powerful woman that knows who she is, that still loves fashion, and she's on a mission. Like, I dress so many female CEOs, and you know, it's become a thing. Like, when you see a Sergio Hudson jacket or suit, you know what it is. That's how you identify yourself outside of yourself with a brand. And I think when you know, it kind of goes hand in hand. You have to be able to connect as a personality, but the work has to speak back to what you're doing. So I think people connect when they see that Michelle Obama outfit, they see me. So you have to connect those two things, and that comes from consistency in design, consistency in the type of woman that you go after, consistency, like saying from season to season, what is our woman wanting to wear now? And that's how I believe I identify outside of my brand.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, Tase, you talked about putting business first, and then creativity comes next. And then you were like, it's not about what you want to design, but about what the client wants. But clients needs change. So the client wants this today, and this season they want something else, and in next season they want another thing. But there's also something you are being taught about having a particular niche for your brand. So, okay, this is what my brand wants to be known for. I started my brand early this year, and I love making trousers, I love making jackets and suits, but not all clients want that. So where do we find the balance between making sure this, where do we find the balance between finding a niche for your brand and then what the client wants in that sense?
Okay, so this is the thing. So this is a journey. So like when you start your brand, you put a bunch of stuff out there, you see if people like it. Sometimes you might think, this is what I'm really good at. This is me. This is who my customer is going to be. And then the customer tells you something else, because in a million years, I didn't dream that my number one item forevermore would be a suit. I just like suits. So but I'm not a suit designer per se, but my customer told me very early on, this is what we like from you. So the way you find balance is, take for instance my latest collection. I wasn't in a suit mood. Like, I didn't feel like designing suits. I wasn't feeling it. I was like, I want to do dresses. I want to do this. I want to do that. So the way you find a balance is you design the things that you're feeling, and then you figure out, okay, how do I incorporate what my customer wants? And I make a marriage of what they want with what I want to do. It's always a compromise. So I put, 80% of my collection that you saw on the runway was the stuff that I wanted to do. And I would say about 20% was me coming up with ways for my customer to relate to what I wanted to do. And if you want, it's a way for you to take your customer on a journey to a different direction, but you can't do it abruptly. So I want the customer to know that, okay, we're good at the suits, but we're good at other stuff as well. Here, I want you to see it. But here's the suits to kind of make you know Okay, it's still Sergio Hudson. We're not going too far to the left. So I say it's always a compromise. So do a little bit of what you want, but do a little bit of what they want as well.
Thank you so much. That's the last question of the day. Sergio, thank you for your time and your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.